In the interest of
Yeah,
valuing everybody's time, we'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to start about
let's
10:30.
get
So
started.
You're going to kick us
Yeah.
off.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for joining us. We are so thrilled and honored to have Pat and Dianne with us today. We just want to, well, I guess we'll start with introducing ourselves. My name is Anita, and I have with me.
Hello, Meeta here. How are you? Thank you for joining us this morning.
So yeah, we're from Green and Fit Frisco. So thanks again for joining. And before we kick off with some introductions and our exciting event, just a few housekeeping rules. If you guys could all stay on mute once Pat and Dianne start speaking, that would help. Sometimes there's an echo and feedback. We're also going to be recording this session, as Pat said. So that's primarily so that we can share it later for anyone that would have liked to be here and couldn't. If time permits and we all have the time, we can have a little chit chat and Q&A session at the end. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions as they're doing something, you feel like you might forget later, feel free to post them in the chat and we can address them either through the end of this meeting or maybe a little later.
Okay.
Just to give you all some information about Pat and Dianne, they have been running they are huge supporters of whole food plant-based living. And so they run this group called Plant-Based Dallas. They have a website for it. They have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook page, all of that good stuff. They have been great mentors for us. Anita and I have worked closely with them in the realm of whole food plant-based eating and attended their jar swap events. And they have been so wonderful. So thank you for inspiring us. Some other background, Dianne has has an engineering degree, but then chose to raise her 5 kids while cooking healthy meals for them. And so she has a lot of experience with this, and they have had some medical challenges where whole food plant-based eating really helped them come along. So it's inspiring to learn about their journey. And without any further ado, I'll let them take it from here.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Meeta. Pat, why don't you start and we'll just give you a brief background of how we got to be here.
And just a quick correction before I start on that is,
yes,
we did not cook healthy meals for our kids. We cooked very unhealthy meals for our kids. It wasn't until here in the last few years that we started cooking healthy, and our kids, for the most part, are all on board. We have a lot of grandkids who have yet to eat meat, cheese, dairy, but we raised our kids on the standard American diet, and that hence that led us to some of the challenges that we had in our lives. So our journey started really in 2011 when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we didn't do any research on it or anything like that. We went to the doctor down at UT Southwest and said, "Hey, what are our options?" He said, "Well, you're 50 years old." He says, the best thing you can do is probably just have it removed. Here's some other options, but probably want to have it removed. And so when you're 50 years old and you're told you have cancer, you just say, "Yeah, that sounds like a great plan." We said, "What are the side effects from having your prostate removed?" He said, "Well, you'll never have children again." I said, "Well, okay, I'm 50 years old. I got 5 kids. That's not a big issue." Unfortunately, what we found out is there are many long-term effects, some of which I'll be stuck with for the rest of my life. So for the women out there and for the men, you don't want prostate cancer. And eating a whole food plant-based diet is an excellent way to avoid getting prostate cancer. So I had it removed, and we went on basically with our lives, eating the way we were eating, and doing the things that we had been doing until 2013.
Right. And I will back up a little bit. When he got prostate cancer, I did my research and I started looking online, trying to figure out what foods caused it. And it became apparent that diet had a link to cancer. And I said, Pat, we don't eat any cruciferous vegetables. And both of us were like, what's a cruciferous vegetable?
Well, just real notably, not only does diet affect it, but the big correlation is between is with prostate cancer and dairy. And I drank tons of vitamin D milk, and I literally had 4 scoops of vanilla bean ice cream every night, not some nights, every night, and usually had some cheese when I came home from work. So milk, cheese, and dairy were a significant part of my diet.
Right. As well, when I would cook casseroles, all the creamy sauces with the cheese, same exact thing. So we started to add a few more cruciferous because I found that, and tried to eat a little bit healthier, but I hadn't found out about whole food plant-based yet. I had just seen the connection between cruciferous. So then I get diagnosed 2 years later in 2013 with breast cancer, and it was stage 1 in just my left breast. And the doctor said, oh, it's stage 1, probably you won't need radiation, won't even need chemo. But of course, my initial response is, like everyone, oh my gosh, get the cancer out of my body. I'm going to cut them both off, and I'm going to cut them off as fast as I can, get it out of here, without doing any research, without talking to anyone. I did talk to people, but everyone sort of had the same idea, just get it out and be safe. So went through that whole procedure and had implants put in, and continued to live our life. And while I was recuperating, I started reading. I had a lot of downtime because I was going to put myself first. My kids were all older and were adults, so I didn't have to take care of any children. And I started researching, and then I saw the connection. I found the words whole food plant-based. A friend had told us about the movie Forks Over Knives. Another friend had given Pat a book called Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And I started reading. And then I went to the China study, and then, it just blossomed after there. The documentaries, books, and I sat down with Pat one evening and I said, Pat, I am reading all these different books, watching all these different movies, and it's all about the food we eat. It's literally the same foods cause all the problems that we're having, not only cancer, but diabetes, heart disease. I said, it's the food. And he's like, really? And I said, and we'd watched Forks Over Knives and seen their little experiment. So I said, we should do an experiment. We have all of our blood work. We get tested every year. Both of us are high cholesterol. He was on a statin. Mine was like above 200, but I wasn't on a statin. It was like 220, and it went up and down. Neither one of us really fought weight problems, but our numbers weren't great. And one of my numbers was the HSCRP, the C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker. And mine had always been high for 15 years. I had had an early colon scan because the doctor said, you're way, way high on your inflammatory marker, So we decided, let's do a little test. And we tried to get a bunch of friends and family to do this little test. We called it the Healthy Eating Project. That was the first name of our Facebook group. And we didn't get too many friends and family that wanted to do it. And our kids nicknamed it the HEP. Oh, Mom, is this HEP food? Can you eat this? HEP. And so we did the experiment, and we tested our numbers. And when I say we did it, we cut out all dairy. We cut out red meat. We were still eating some fish. We were still eating some chicken. We were still eating oils. We didn't know anything about the oils. But even just eliminating all the animal and the cheese, except for the chicken and the fish, we had our blood numbers taken 6-8 weeks later. Yeah. And the difference in the numbers, I mean, my cholesterol went from 220 to like 160. My inflammatory marker went to 0. I mean, that was it. And that inflammatory marker was still raised even after my breast surgery. So it wasn't the breast cancer that was causing the high inflammatory marker, because months later it was still high. So anyway, we did the experiment. We said, my gosh, what are we going to do? I mean, we were sitting at that table. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'm a data person. I'm a science person. I love data. And so I had everything laid out, and we're looking at it. We were all alone. I said, what should we do? And he said, his words were, well, we would be stupid to go back to how we were eating. And so that was the beginning. I mean, it was not an overnight thing. We're good now and we're 100%, but it's an evolution for everybody, step by step. So What we're going to show you today is what works for us. It may not work for you. Maybe you'll get 1 or 2 tips that would be great for your lifestyle, but the main thing is just try and eat the foods. Don't worry about making fancy things and fancy recipes all the time. Just eat the fruits and veggies, the nuts and seeds and the whole grains. I mean, that's really it. And you'll find easy ways to do it, and find good recipes here and there, but don't feel compelled to, oh, I got to find a meatloaf recipe. I got to find this. I got to find this,
It's not about finding replacements. It's not about, okay, I can't eat regular meatloaf, but what kind of meatloaf can I eat? It's just, I mean, you can do that, but it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. Or you can just eat it how we eat it, which we'll show you in a little bit how we prepare a lot of our meals.
Right. Okay, so the main thing, we use the jar method, and we have 1 million jars. And I'm just going to tell you the difference between these. These are the quart-sized jars, and they're wide mouth. You can get wide mouth quart-sized jars or regular mouth. This is a regular mouth jar. And the reason I'm doing the difference is because we have what's called jar swaps, and I'll talk about those later. These are, you can order this on Amazon, a stainless steel funnel. So when you're chopping your veggies, you can just dump them into it. You have your collapsible cutting board that works good too. So we do our jars with our fruits and veggies for the week. We also cook our beans and our grains in our Instapots, and so we'll show you that. We cook our potatoes for the week, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, and sometimes we cook more than a bag a week. We'll cook a whole bag of potatoes, if you'll go get those out of the fridge, and then we just set them in a container in the refrigerator. We don't cover them up. We just leave them open so we can reach our hand in, grab a potato. We keep our potatoes just without tops.
Regular and sweet.
Right. And sometimes we have russets, and these were cooked in the Instapot. And there's plenty of ways to cook potatoes. You can roast them in your oven, but we always have these from the Instapot because these are the basis of a lot of our meals. I think we can go put those.
I'd love to take the regular potatoes and just slice them into thin little slices, put them in our little Breville oven, and basically make my own potato chips. Put a little bit of salt on them, a little bit of pepper, make my own potato chips.
Yeah, so having them cooked decreases the time you need to have. If I'm going someplace and I'm hungry, I'll grab a potato out of the thing and just take it with me on the road, put it in a Ziploc bag or something. So it's good to have those cooked foods ready to go. So we do our jars, we do our beans, our grains, our potatoes, and then we always have several containers of the mixed superpower greens. So whatever kind of greens you like, we like to put those in our bowls. And then our cut fruit. We spend a lot of time prepping, but it's well worth the time to have all these things at hand. We can go into our refrigerator.
If it's not prepped, you're much more likely to go back to whatever's easiest. Well, I'm gonna get this processed food that I've got, a bag of chips or whatever it might be.
So I've got watermelon sliced in there. I've got mango peeled and done, honeydew melon, and little orange sections peeled and ready to go.
And we buy lots of organic berries up at Sprouts, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. We're at Sprouts probably every 2 to 3 days getting fresh organic berries.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to have fresh.
Right.
We like them but you can also use frozen. That's just as easy. So frozen works well and in all the dishes. Okay, so again, it's just the main thing, eat the foods. So we use our Instapot, we use our Power Blender a lot. You can either have the Vitamix or the Breville or whatever you use, or your other regular blender if you don't have the funds to buy that. But one of the things that I want to demo today is the Vidalia Chop Wizard, and Rosie and several other people know that this is one of the things that we love. This is at Bed Bath & Beyond for $19.99, and with a coupon you get, a little bit more off. I always keep the box and the receipt because I've broken quite a many going full-fledged, working really, really fast. You turn this down. So the way this works is it's set on these 2 plastic nipples, the top is. So it's got to be seated correctly when you're going fast. If it's just cockeyed a little bit, you'll break those off. So
hence, if you break it off, you put it back in the box, take it back to Bed Bath & Beyond, and they'll replace it for you for free.
Yeah, up till this point, they've replaced it. And it comes with two dicing blades. One is really, really tiny and one's a little bit bigger. If you'll get the jar of potatoes out of there. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to cut these potatoes. Here's some potatoes that I had cut with the bigger one, and then I just boiled them.
They're little potato cubes.
So they've been boiled a little bit so that we can just dump them into bowls and go and blow.
Or Instapot.
No, those are already cooked. Yeah, those are cooked. Okay, so let me show you how this works real quick. You can either put the whole potato in to get longer French fries, but you have to be just a tad bit careful. But that's it. So here you have your longer fries. And or you can take your pet. You want to get something I can dump that into, please. So that's the bigger one. And if you slice them, slice your potato into several slices, then you can get the little cubes. And believe me, you can go really fast on this.
I like to do this at about 6:30 in the morning when I'm still trying to sleep, and all I hear is just wham, wham, wham,
And all
wham.
my
Like, will you
kids-
stop cutting potatoes?
And all my kids know. So there's that one. The little one is really fun because you can, I've got a carrot that I pulled out of the garden this morning. Oh, and by the way, don't throw away your carrot greens. You can cut those up and use those in your soups and stews, lots of flavor. So save your carrot greens. So I like to take carrots and keep them about 1 inch long, about like that. And then again, it's a little bit harder, but so then you have these nice long, and you can do that with radishes. I just put the whole radish in and get these long little slivers, little rectangular slivers. So like this, and with that, we can put that up later. And then of course, an onion. No one really likes to chop onions, but with this handy dandy, and I'm not saying you need to have one of these. Some people get really joy out of slicing and chopping, and you don't have to have one of these, but if you have one of these, you know, you've got a half an onion. That. So really you just cut the onion in half, put it in. I need to rearrange that. Now you've got all your onion slices, and I need to fill up a jar. You do that. And look, there's one onion, one jar, and I'll get a little bit of masking tape. And as far as the lids to them, you know, they come with the metal lids. And I like to use those for things that, like the onions, but they also, you can also buy plastic ones on Amazon in different colors for things that don't smell. But I'm gonna get this one. Pat, if you'll put today's date on that jar. So anyway, that's the demo for the chopper. That's a really fun thing. And put that over here. Vidalia Chop Wizard at Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay, now you can spend just a couple hours with 2 people and really knock out all your jars. I'm gonna get.
I'll just warn you though, if you do, especially broccoli in the jars, I'm here to tell you, when you open it, to me, it smells like a dirty diaper. Diane's all, oh, it's all the sulforaphane. I said, I don't care what you call it. It smells like a dirty diaper, but the broccoli's still good. It still tastes normal and everything.
Yeah, the gas builds up in those cruciferous vegetables. So I've got my chopped red onions. I've got chopped cucumbers, and they're chopped a little bit bigger because they stay longer the bigger they are. And I may chop these up finer for a salad. I've got mushrooms. I've got steamed, halved Brussels sprouts. I cut them in half and then I steam them. So these are really ready to eat. They're mostly cooked. I've got some chopped greens from the garden. I've got chopped broccoli. We've got a black radish that I shaved the other day. I never had even seen radishes before. Here's celery, red radishes, a little bit of leftover zucchini. And notice we put the date on top of all of them so that I know I'd like to use up my older jars first. So I'm always constantly checking the dates. We've got our tomato halves, poblano peppers. We use a lot of those. Some jalapeno peppers. And we have our red and green cabbage. Look how beautiful that is. So you can imagine having all this at your fingertips, how quick and easy. We spend time peeling all of our garlic. I mean, I know it sounds like a lot of work, but when you do that, it makes life so much easier. Okay, and then here's the whole grains I want to tell you about. Notice that they're pourable. After I cook my grains, this happens to be rye. After I cook them, I rinse them and cool them and let them dry so that I can just pour them out into my bowl. So this is rye, whole rye groats. And then I've got sweet potato shreds. Since I buy the organic sweet potatoes, I don't peel them. And I have a bigger shredder, so I put them in big shreds. So then this is raw and it cooks really fast. Here's our cooked potatoes that you saw earlier. And I've got squash, some other green onions, and some orange bell peppers. You'll have to use those instead of red. The other thing I wanted to show you, can you take that off? Is I cooked a big old pot of black beans, and normally I rinse and I drain them, but this time I decided it's got all that great liquid in it. I'm going to keep it. And then I make this instantaneous black bean soup. I just pour some of the black beans in the liquid into a bowl. I pour a little bit of salsa, I add some chili pepper, I add some smoked paprika, maybe a little lime juice, salt and pepper, and you have this wonderful black bean soup. So if you want to keep the liquid, you could keep it in a separate jar and then put the beans separate or keep it all together, which is what I have. Okay, so how long do things last? Well, your cruciferous vegetables literally will last 4 to 6 weeks in here. I had a thing of cauliflower that was over a month old and I was scared to open it. I opened it up, it didn't pop, it didn't smell bad. And for dinner one night, all I did is steam that huge, it was this much cauliflower. I steamed it and then I just put salt and pepper and a little bit of chili spice on it. And that was my dinner, just pure cauliflower. So, you know, these are the foods we need to be eating, and having them at hand like this, you can see how easy it would be for a good hearty salad because everything's already done. And by the way, I got this nice big heavy duty box from Natural Grocers, because you know how when you go there and shop, they have those boxes there. So
ironically too, the majority of things she just showed you in here, with the exception of potatoes and peppers, prior to us starting this journey, I never ate. I mean, I not only did I not eat them, I didn't like them. And my taste buds have changed completely since we have made the transition. And there's still stuff in here that's not my favorite. But what I do when I cook, I'll just if I'm making me a bowl, I'll just chop it up a little bit smaller so I'm not getting big chunks of something like mushrooms. I'm not a huge mushroom fan, but it's in everything I eat. But I just chop them up real small, so I don't know I'm eating mushrooms. It just tastes like everything else, you know. So it's one of our little life hacks that we've learned. I want to get the mushrooms because we want to eat as broad a variety of foods as we can. That's food diversity is a big part of plant-based eating to keep your gut healthy. So you want to eat all this stuff. And I'm not a huge sweet potato fan either, but sweet potatoes done like this, and guess what? These are kind of shaved, but I'll still cut those up even a little bit smaller, so I don't know that I'm getting a big chunk of sweet potato. And guess what? I never know I'm eating a sweet potato.
Hey,
Okay,
Pat, I'm
great.
so sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
there are some people having trouble seeing your screen. So if there is an option for speaker view there, that way we can see
Okay.
the complete screen.
Okay, how's that?
I don't know. On
you
my
got the-
screen,
Put us on speaker view, Pat. Hit us because you've got it on her.
Okay.
No.
Oh, a pin. No, we'll turn the other.
Yeah, is that better?
Folks, the speaker view is something that you have to choose on your computers. I I don't think what Pat and Diane do would help. You have to choose the view button on the top right
That is good.
of your Zoom window. And you should be able to choose between gallery view and speaker view. And then the gallery view has all the people in one screen, and the speaker view will show you the person whose audio is coming through. So in this case, it would be Pat and Diane.
So if you're on speaker view right now, you should be seeing a full screen of us.
Right.
If you have it on speaker view.
Yeah, so the speaker view actually gives you kind of like a film strip. So you'll see Pat and Diane, most of the screen, everyone else on the top. If you want to get rid of everyone else, then you can go into full screen mode within the speaker view. That'll give you just them.
Okay, so those are the jars. Now, the other thing that we fill our jars with are beans and grains, and we love our Instapot. We have 2 of them. I borrowed a friend's today so that I could have 3 different things to show you. And we have these magnets that I made and developed, and my daughter helped me do them for easy cooking times for the Instapot. And one of them is alpha by ingredient, and it tells you the ingredient and how long you need to cook it. But this other one that I did, I went through all my cookbooks and wrote down what everything, the time frame on everything, and then I paired them up into groups so that anything that needs to cook for 3 minutes is in one column, so you can cook multiple items at one time. And it goes all the way from 3, 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 25 minutes. So this morning I cooked several things. Pat, can you get this and show them as we unload it? In this Instapot, on the bottom, I have sorghum, purple barley, and garbanzo beans all in the same pot. So on the top level, I have my cooked garbanzo beans in a separate thing. And then underneath, if you can see this, I put in a funnel, and you're just going to have to figure out what you can put in to raise that glass up. And on the bottom, it's the purple barley and the sorghum cooked. And I always put plenty of water in there because I'm going to rinse and drain my grains. So I don't really worry about measuring out exactly. You can certainly do that, but there's my grains. So that one had 3 different things in it, and we'll use those grains. We'll rinse them, drain them, and then put them in a jar. Okay. And in this Instapot, make sure. In this Instapot, I mixed millet and quinoa together. Millet takes a little bit longer than quinoa, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It just means your quinoa is going to get a little bit more cooked. I mix those together, and then on top I put black lentils. So see in here, it's a little bit tough with the light. Let me see if this light helps. Here we go. So I've got my black lentils on top in this little glass container. And then, oh yeah, I forgot, new potatoes are in there too. So I've got the millet and the quinoa on the bottom. And then I've got new potatoes stuck in there. So we've got actually 4 things in there that we cooked in this one. So that's the beauty. And this little glass pot just was sitting on top of the new potatoes. I didn't have to have it on a rack. You can collect various things and get them off Amazon to be able to layer. Like, you know, I have this thing that I've used. Sometimes I use this. Everybody has one of those. And then I have these other racks that came in Instapots or some other things. Things like this, you could cook chickpeas in, or something like this, with whatever you have to be able to layer the things. And it's just more efficient. You can cook, you know, several things at one time. And then I have one other Instapot that we did over here. Pat, you want to carry this over here?
Yep.
This Instapot, I love mixing the grains because the grains are so tasty when you mix them all together. This one has spelt, oat groats, and rye mixed all together. And then on the bottom, it has the black beans. So there in another glass jar, I have the grains, those 3 grains. Look at how beautiful and colorful they are. And they're so nutty and good. So I'll stir those up and rinse and drain those. And then on the bottom, there's my black beans. And this is another accessory that came in some sort of Instapot accessory thing. So I just stood that up so that my pot could stay on top of that. So now we've got black beans for our bowl. So that is all that I cooked today via the Instapots. And you can see how we keep our grains in these jars because keep all the bugs out. All righty. One important thing when cooking beans and grains in the Instapot, remember no salt when you're cooking your beans and grains, because salt will inhibit the absorption and you'll end up with hard beans or hard grains. So do not salt until you're ready to eat it. You know, eat it first and see if you can eat it without the salt. And then if you can't, go ahead and salt it, but no salt when you're cooking in the Instapot. Even when you're making soups and stews, wait for the salt till later. Okay. The other thing that we spend time doing early is we get out our juicer that was gifted to us from a dear friend. She didn't want it. Now that she sees what we do with it, she probably wants it back. But this is a great juicer. We take 3 lemons and heat them up in the microwave just slightly, juice them, and we keep our lemon juice and lime juice in the refrigerator. And you know, this is heavenly. This and a little bit of vinegar is all you need on a good salad. So spend the time juicing your lemons and limes, and that will save time in the end. Feel free to add anything. And the other thing that we use a lot, these are the bowls we eat out of. We use plates every now and then, but mostly we use bowls. And this is from Bed Bath & Beyond. It's called Everyday White. And this is the actual vegetable bowl to the pattern. And I think maybe it's $10 or $15. I don't really recall exactly, but then you know, you use a coupon. But when we fill our breakfast or lunch or dinner bowls, they're like this. And Pat will fix it and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat? I'm not going to be able to eat all that. And I can guarantee you every single time.
Here's what I use the plate for. When I put it in the microwave, and then it comes off, and then we literally don't use plates anymore.
Right. Very, very true. So these, again, Everyday White from Fitz and Floyd are at Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay. And then everyone needs to have a good pan. You can use a stainless steel. This is a ceramic coated one that we got off Amazon, and it's Bowl Wrath. And I think I put a link to it, VOLLRATH, and this is 14 inches. So, you know, you can use an electric fry pan or whatever, but we use this a lot to steam our veggies, and that's what I'm going to use when I make my bowl today. Okay. And okay, I'm going to go first and make my bowl using the jars and show you how quick and easy this is. I'm going to make a lemon tahini bowl. So I know I love my mushrooms, so I'm going to start. You know what, Pat, we need to get the camera working. Okay, I'm going to start with mushrooms because I love mushrooms. And I need to use up the rest of this zucchini, so I'm going to throw the zucchini in because it's time. And love sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes in this lemon tahini are great. Not measuring, just dumping. And if I have leftover, that's no big deal. These are some greens, multiple different greens out of my garden, kale and collard greens. I'm going to put some of that in there. And let's see, I want to use some chickpeas. Here's some chickpeas that I just cooked. So I'll take some of those. Okay, we got our chickpeas. Normally they would have been in a jar, and I love just a tiny bit of spice with this. So I have some jalapenos in here someplace. And I cut up the whole jalapeno with the seeds too. So you don't need much jalapeno because it's pretty spicy. with the seeds and the white pith. The seeds and the white pith are the hottest part of the jalapeno and peppers. Gonna need some onion and either broccoli, cauliflower, or cabbage. I'm gonna look at the dates on my jar and see what I need to eat up. Okay, this broccoli needs to get eaten, so I'm gonna put a little bit of broccoli in here. Okay, now that's all I do. And then I'm gonna just put a tad bit of water in here and I'm gonna put it over on the stove and steam it. You know what, I do want some grains in there.
Here.
You know what, I'm gonna use this one. You
Okay.
use that one for yours because these are bigger grains. And these haven't been rinsed, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna put the grains in there too. And if you don't rinse your grains, you know, that liquid that's in there is really thick and you can use that like as a breakfast porridge and mix it with fruits and nuts. You don't have to rinse your grains. If you like that liquid, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so I'm gonna pour just a tad bit of water in here. You can use broth, you can use vinegar, you can use water, you can use aquafaba, bean juice, whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to cover and steam that, and while that's cooking, Pat is going to show you what he's going to do for his bowl.
So my kind of go-to, this is pretty much what I eat every morning for breakfast. I like more Mexican-y kind of flavors. So mine's more of a Mexican bowl. So I also start off with cut up greens, dump some in. Huge fan of purple onions. Put some of those in. Put a lot of those in. Then poblano peppers. Then some other peppers, the orange ones. I love peppers, so I don't mind if they're cut a little bit bigger. I'll put in sweet potatoes. Like I said, with the sweet potatoes, I always like to cut them up. I won't do them all here, but I'll reach in and do this just so I'm not getting huge chunks of sweet potatoes. I don't want huge chunks. I'll put my favorite mushrooms in. As I mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of mushrooms. I'll put some of those in. I'll also cut those up just a little bit smaller. And you know, because we've got them, I don't mind adding some quinoa to it because to me, quinoa doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to start with. I know the grain is good for me. So in this case, I'm gonna put a little bit of tip it down here.
And it's not just quinoa, it's got millet and quinoa. But
Yeah, and I
know that.
Yeah, I thought, don't tell me what all. Just don't tell me what all's in it. Just I don't mind eating it. You don't have to tell me what it is because sometimes it might be a big turn off. The other thing I do is we make.
Put them in here.
We make our own little enchiladas or burritos. These are stuffed with a kind of a tofu black bean mix. I like to put those on top. Okay, and
those have come out of the freezer. I make those in mass quantities and then keep them in the freezer so he can pull them out.
My secret ingredient, which I've already chopped up, that you want to waste time doing it, is garlic.
See, he goes to a lot more trouble. It takes him twice as long to make his meal, but he's very particular about what he does.
I love the garlic in there. And then we make our homemade cheese sauce. It's a cashew-based cheese. It's got chili powder, paprika,
Nutritional yeast,
and
red bell peppers,
there's one other spice too. Chili powder.
and miso, and there's millions of recipes.
If you don't want to make it, Nature's Plate sells a wonderful version of it, which I like that as well. They also sell the breakfast burritos if you don't want to eat them. So bottom line is that's what my bowl looks like. Okay.
Okay, you know what you forgot that you always do because you're in a hurry.
What's that?
Your greens.
No, they're in the bottom.
Oh, they are? Oh, okay, you did that fast.
I just did the greens. From
Okay,
here.
okay.
I also will use if we don't have greens cut up, I'll use some of the store-bought organic spinach that we buy, and of course I'll cut that up real small because it's like everything cut up small. I'll put mine in the microwave, and then when I'm done, get some salsa that I'll put on top. And as opposed to her lemon tahini bowl, Mine has a much more Mexican flavor to it. Oh, yeah, I got that. Oh, I forgot the jalapenos. I like a little bit more of the heat, so I'll put a little bit more of that on. So the thing about it too is when you're done, it's like, hey, gummit, that is pretty. I mean, that looks very, to me, it looks wonderful. And you know, so this is my breakfast. So we've gotten away from thinking that breakfast has to be, you know, oatmeal, you know, obviously not eggs, but all your typical breakfast foods. To me, breakfast, it's just another meal to eat the right foods. You know, and so that's kind of a paradigm shift to get away from. You have to kind of break.
Right, rather than having a piece of toast and jelly, you can have nutritious foods that are so much, you know, have so many more available nutrition than say a piece of toast. I mean, a lot of us have to do sometimes toast bread because we're in a big hurry, but if you've got time and you can eat your leftover soup or your leftover whatever meal you have. So he's gonna.
So Dianne steams hers. I'm microwave mine.
Okay. And mine is still going. Now I'm going to show you how I do my sauce. I said a lemon tahini. I've got some tahini here, and I do shop at the Indo-Pak and Indian stores because you can get dates and tahini at a lot cheaper price. This just has a little bit of tahini left in it. I'm going to use tahini, and I'm going to use some lemon juice. And then instead of adding a sugar, I'm going to sweeten mine with fruit. So I'll either add some mango to mine or some pineapple. Those are the two fruits that I love to add to it. So instead of adding a sweetener to it, the lemon tahini sauce is going to have sweetened by fruit. So mine is still cooking. It's really not time yet to do it. I guess we can
I think there's a bunch of questions out there.
yeah, we can answer any questions while the food is cooking.
Yeah, okay, let me go through some of them. There were a lot of people actually that were very thrilled to know that we could put glass in Instant Pots. I think that was news to a lot of us, so that was great. There's one question about how much time do you put potatoes in for so they don't get mushy? Because
what I'll do is we just go to our magnet.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And on there, I mean, even a guy like me can look and say, well, what kind of potato is it? Is it a russet or whole? And that's 15 minutes. Is it a sweet whole potato? That's 22 minutes. It's all on here about what type of potato it is.
Yeah, the new potatoes are generally around 10 minutes, the new potatoes.
Okay.
And I didn't come up with that glass. There was some recipe. Oh, it was in another cookbook. Let me go get that.
Well, Anita, other questions while she's doing that?
Yeah, I'm just looking through them. Actually, Tiffany was asking, I know you guys are on the laptop, but if she was saying that it would be so nice if we could see your kitchen pantry and garden. And I know that we mentioned because you're on the computer, that might be a.
We're gonna see if Pat can do it.
Yeah, join in with the. Yeah.
This cookbook is an old cookbook. It's Lorna Sass, Great Vegetarian Cooking Under Pressure. It's a pressure cooker recipe book. It's very old, but I found it in a bookstore one day, and in its dessert section, it was the one who told me that you can bake cakes in the pressure cooker, and you find a glass pot. This is the perfect one. And I make cakes all the time in the pressure cooker. You just put a piece of glass, like a spice jar in the middle, so you make it into bundt cake so that the inside doesn't stay gooey.
Yeah.
So you use a spice jar similar to like this, empty, of course, with no top on, and put it in the middle and then put it down. So I didn't know that you could put glass into the Instant Pot until I read this cookbook, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that opens up so many other things.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
So one more question.
Yes. Wait, one more question. Yes.
How much water are you adding to the glass bowls when you use them in the Instapot?
Well, my ratio is usually 3-to-1 for beans and grains.
Even if it's in the glass jar. So your glass container inside is not affecting your water proportions, basically.
No, I don't really know what happens when the pressure builds up because the water's condensating and falling down, and it's a what do you call that? doesn't matter, the water phase. So it's constantly going. So
The
this
cyclical
could,
one, yeah.
this could have turned a little bit black if it was cooking with the black beans, you know, with the water going like that. But I usually do 3 to 1. And sometimes I open it up and the beans have absorbed all the liquid. So I pour in more liquid and I, you know, cook it for another 2 or 3 minutes. Nothing is perfect. I mean, you just open it up, you taste it and you say, oh my gosh, it's perfect. You know, and if it's got too much water, like this was the perfect amount of water. Normally I have water in there and I've got to drain it and rinse it. But this was just the amount. So 3 to 1 is a great ratio.
All right.
I'm gonna switch this to my phone. If you're on speaker view, let me see. I'm not sure. Can y'all see me on your screen?
So you've joined as an.
Yes, Patrick's
Yeah.
phone. Patrick's
It's-
phone.
Okay. let's see.
Patrick's iPhone, I think, on there.
We don't see you.
Okay.
Okay, let me go and where's this thing?
You haven't, well, I see you in the meeting, but I don't see you as the presenter because you haven't joined the audio. So you may have to mute the computer first, because otherwise you'll get
Hold on,
feedback.
okay, there we go. Let's see.
So mute your computer, join in on the phone, and then we'll be able to hear you and see you.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay. Here's
Here's the first thing I want to show you. When you cook all these extra beans and grains, you got to switch
They
the
flip it
view.
around here.
You just turn your camera. When you cook all these beans and grains, this is our freezer. And so whenever I have extra beans and grains, I just freeze them. So you notice I've got, 30 jars, 20 jars in there of frozen beans and grains that I can pull out at moment's notice. And then in our fridge, here's where our jars go. We have our fruit up here and then cooked food down below. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you in the freezer is that we keep all of our nuts and seeds frozen using Old Spice containers so that they won't go rancid. So all your nuts and seeds. And then also,
a trip to the pantry.
now don't let this overwhelm you because this has been a progression. This is over 7 years. I've got most of my spice jars out on the counter, but that there were this many different types of beans and grains. So just a little.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop my video here.
Okay, mine should be about ready. Yeah, you got it.
We have one more question I see. What setting do you use on the IP, bean or pressure? Pressure low or high?
I always just use the manual setting. I don't use any of those other settings that are on there. I do manual and then use the plus or minus buttons to adjust the time. You may not have a manual button. It may say pressure cook. Whoops. It may say manual, but I don't use any of those other buttons on my pressure cooker. Occasionally I'll use the timer so that I can turn on my Instapot like in the middle of the night if I have something I want to cook. And I'll put it in the night before and then read the directions, but it's really simple on, it will come on whenever you want it to if you set the timer. Okay, so here's my veggies and it looks like I should have watched it a little bit better. It may have burned somewhat, but that's all right. That's all right. Okay, so I'm going to add to this. You know what, I'd rather, well, I'll mix it up in here. I'm gonna add some tahini, a little bit of richness to it. And you could just as easily add nut butter, almond butter, sunflower butter. And here's my lemon juice, a little bit of lemon juice. And then the deliciousness of mangoes. already tell that this wasn't enough. I should have packed it full of a lot more things. But you get the idea.
But she'll eat that whole thing. That's one meal.
Right. And you know, your stomach holds 4 cups of food. So when you're eating, you know, you're not going to eat a small little bowl of something and feel like you're full. You know, you have to eat a lot of this food to stay full. If you're tired and you're just starting this whole food plant-based thing and you're telling your friends, I'm not doing this, I'm tired all the time. Well, you're not eating enough food. You've got to eat enough carbs. You know, this is a high carb, low fat way of eating, and it takes carbs is what fuels our body. So we need to eat a lot of the food.
They're whole carbs. They're not processed carbs.
Right.
So these are good carbs, and that's where you get your energy from.
Right. So that was the lemon tahini bowl. Pat's going to bring his out real quick.
Okay, so here's my bowl.
Let me see the camera.
Okay. Okay. Whew, that's hot. Okay. So all said and done. It looks pretty much like it did when we first put it in, except what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some salsa to it. And like with Diane's, I found this later. I love adding some mangoes to it, and that's it. It's ready to go. So Diane is messing with my phone.
Finally figured it out.
So finished product. There it is. And I'm here to tell you, I've been doing this every morning for I don't know how long. I'll tell you when I get tired of it because it hadn't happened yet.
All righty. Any other questions or anything else? Just a one quick review is do your jars if that seems to work for you. Cook up some beans, some grains. Don't be afraid to experiment. A lot of times I'll cook 3 or 4 beans all together and it'll just be a mixed thing of beans, even though they may not have the exact same time on the chart. Just cook it for the longest one and, you know, it's deliciousness. Allison, are you available? We have a special guest here today, my sister Allison from California, and she too is plant-based. And I thought I'd ask her what she does for kitchen prep at her place. So just give us your few tips.
Well, I basically live alone, so I'm really cooking and stuff for one person, but I eat a lot because I exercise a lot. So I always tell people I started eating this way because I came and stayed with Dianne and Pat for 10 days when they were doing this, and I just liked the way the food tasted, and I just kept doing it, and that was like 6-7 years ago now. But anyway, start with the vegetables that you like. Don't try to get creative with stuff that you know you don't like. Start with the veggies that you like, and it's always about the seasoning and the sauce. There's great flavored balsamics,
yes,
that you can use. There are salsas, barbecue sauce, jalapeno mustard, lime, and lemon. That adds a lot of flavor. And even the rind of the, putting in the lemon zest or the lime zest or even orange zest into something. Don't, throw away that edge of the fruit. Use that too. I always keep a large salad in the fridge that's got 2 different types of lettuces, onions, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, celery, all the vegetables I like, red and green cabbage. And I just keep a big salad in the fridge. I don't even have it covered. And I take out portions of that, and then I add beans or edamame, some kind of grain, always potatoes, because potatoes have a super high satiety effect. So they fill you up and they keep you full for long periods of time.
Is your broccoli and cauliflower, is that cooked or steamed or is it raw?
No, raw.
Okay.
Now, what I will say, sometimes I take that same salad and I put it in the microwave, even the lettuce, and I heat it all up. And then it's almost like a hot meal in 2 minutes. So though that really serves me well. I eat a salad, for lunch and for dinner. And then sometimes I have something else on top of that if it's not a big salad. But I always keep huge amounts of potatoes, sweet, and I think they were talking about that. Always cook, even if you don't think you're going to eat them all, you will. And they're great to grab. Like I throw some in the car with a little bit of salt if I don't have time to eat, because if you're not full, you're going to make unhealthy. If you get really, really hungry, you're not going to make good, healthy choices, because we all have like food addiction, and the food companies have figured out how to make food addictive And it'll get you every time because it never really goes away. You know, in the back of your mind, well, I haven't had that in a long time. I've been so good. If you're full or you're not starving, you're going to make healthier choices. And that's it.
Good. She talked about the balsamic vinegars. This is my favorite from California Balsamic. This is called Sweet Heat, and it's got garlic, serrano, and habanero peppers. And it's sweet, but it's not so hot that you can't eat. It adds such a great flavor. So this Sweet Heat from California Balsamic is a favorite.
Where do you get that from?
We ordered that online.
California Balsamic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they have like 20 different flavors, and you can even make your own balsamics. They have a great one called curry, and I love to put that on rice and salads and stuff. So I just take balsamic vinegar and I add a bunch of curry powder to it, shake it and let it sit for a few days, and it tastes pretty good to me. But you know, your taste buds will change. And if anyone ever says, oh, I can't go without my meat, you know, ask them to eat a piece of boiled chicken with nothing on it. You know, it's all about the seasoning, and you can season flavors. You know, what makes chili is the chili powder. It's not the ground beef.
Right.
It's the chili powder. So the seasoning, you can take anything. Just recently, I started making barbecue with tempeh because Dr. Neil Bernard eats tempeh for breakfast. So I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it, even though it's a little bit more processed than the edamame bean, because it's a soy product. I slice it in my Cuisinart, and then I put a bunch of barbecue sauce over it and marinate it like in my Instapot. And I'm telling you what, I put that on a salad. I feel like, you know, I'm going to heaven. So
Those are good tips. Thank
Great
you.
points. Yeah.
Anita, are there other questions out there that people have had?
I was just trying to look through. I can't see any, but if I've missed, please
One.
unmute yourselves. We can all.
Tiffany would like to know if your grandkids have a favorite plant-based meal.
You know, what's funny is when they come spend the night with us, you know, I'll ask them, or I'll ask their parents, you know, will they eat that? And they always say, you know what, Mom, they'll eat anything that you serve them. If I try and serve that at my house, they won't eat it. So, you know, I try and have, you know, burgers, some sort of fun burgers, and I'll call everything with, you know, this is superhero power beans, or, you know, I give it a fun name to try and make it fun. And they like to go out in the garden and harvest too. So it's fun when they can pick some things and then we cook it together. But no, they like just about everything. You know, they go through phases, you know. But
The funny thing is to take them out in the garden. We've got one of our grandsons, he'll go pick okra straight off the plant and eat it. We have kumquats, which I'm not a huge fan of, but almost all the kids will go pick kumquats off our kumquat bush and just eat a kumquat. They love, most of them love eating fresh stuff. We have actually one grandson who will just, this still kind of disgusts me, but he'll just take a bite out of the firm tofu. It still just gives me the willies thinking about it, but doesn't bother him.
No, and we have one that just loves broccoli. Broccoli is, you know, steamed broccoli, just, and she doesn't spice it. She doesn't do anything to it. So if you introduce these foods to kids when they're young and don't over spice it or do things to it, you know, their palates adjust and they love it, you know.
Yeah, you're right. I think we all have that guilt. We wish we had known some of this sooner and introduced some habits sooner, but it's never too late.
Yep, that's right.
That's right. Well, Mita and Anita, thank you all so much for everything you're doing. I know that we have friends up north, and it's nice to have a group up north. We're going to have a jar swap tomorrow. I wanted to mention to you about the jar swaps that we do. This is our first one since COVID, but everyone gets 12 of the wide mouth pint jars, and they choose an ingredient. And then they bring to the swap, we're having one tomorrow, and they bring their 12 jars labeled with the date that they prepped it, normally the day before, and then bring it in the box, and then we come and trade, and everybody goes home with 12 different jars of everything. And so when it was non-COVID times, we would have jar swaps about every 3 to 6 weeks just to keep everybody motivated and make it not so much work. And so, you know, you all can have one up there and get all the North people, you know, to join.
Yeah, we've been wanting to talk to you about that. That would be such a great, like, we've been to some of yours, but it is a bit of a drive for us. So you're right. We would like to start doing that pretty soon, as soon as. Like,
yeah, I think there's plenty of people up north that would do that. And, you know, I have the directions on my website, Plant Based Dallas. And also I meant to say these the magnets are available on our website, but if you live in the Dallas area, just message me or email me and you can just pick them off my porch and save the ridiculous $8 shipping fee for these. So they're $20 a set plus shipping, or if you pick them up. So
And
those are available.
Note to self, if you're doing the jar swap and somebody says they're gonna bring black beans, they have to cook the black beans first. You can't just dump a bunch of black beans into a jar, which we've had people do.
We had someone
Dump black
come.
beans into a jar and bring those. And no, that's cheating. You can't do that.
No,
We
one
just have a
person
couple
came
of other questions that came in, folks. Sorry. Besides dairy and meat, what else did you eliminate from your diet? Did you eliminate gluten, flours, or any kind of oats?
No, all processed foods and oils.
We still eat whole
Processed
oats.
foods, yes. That first time when we first jumped into it, we eliminated dairy, red meat, and processed junk type foods. You know, I would still try and look for the good pasta or the good whole grain bread or things like that. But yes, you're right. The junk food, the crackers, the cookies, all of that.
And oil. Cut out oil because oil slows your blood down and is 250 calories for a tablespoon and has
Ruins your arteries.
no nutritional value in it. And 1 tablespoon of olive oil is equivalent to eating 40 olives without any of the fiber and the benefits. So pass on that, especially if you're trying to lose weight, because oil will kill your weight loss because it's hidden and every restaurant cooks with oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be very careful and, you know, try to avoid any kind of refined sugar. I use to sweeten dates or maple syrup or prunes. Sorry, I was looking at the camera, not looking at myself. I was going to give you a tip that I learned about when you're making burgers. In order to get them crispy and you're cooking them in even the oven, just flip them about 12 to 15 minutes through. Flip them so they get crispy on both sides and they stay together better. And I do that with my cookies too, and they're delicious. And don't be afraid to try new things. I love to create in the kitchen and just come up with new recipes. I hate to follow recipes. I look at a bunch of different recipes, get a bunch of different ideas, and just try to throw it all together. I call it creative cooking, and it's a lot more fun than following a recipe and being really disciplined. You know, I just try to put a lot of healthy stuff. Very rarely has something turned out that I couldn't eat. So
Yeah, she's a good cook.
That's great.
All righty.
So much.
Well, I
And-
hope that you all have 1 or 2 tips that y'all can take home and try. And you can print the directions to the jar swaps off my website and then copy and paste it to whatever you all want to do.
Okay, yeah,
And
we've
I'm
got,
happy to come to your first one and help you.
yes, that would be awesome.
We
Yeah.
cannot wait to get started and have a jar swap. Absolutely.
So thank you. And, you know, a really special thanks for welcoming us into your homes, allowing us to see your pantry. That is so sweet of you. Even when you do your jar swaps, we always feel like it's so nice to welcome people into your homes like that. And you guys are just such an awesome team. Very inspiring.
Sweet. We have missed everybody. It's been a tough year for
Yeah.
everybody, I know. We cannot wait to get back to, that's the other thing. Find people that do this and get your support group, because it would be very, very hard to do this on your own. And I know people who are doing it in their family and they're the only person in the family doing it. And that's so hard. So find like-minded people. And once we can start having jar swaps and potlucks and gatherings, you know, we'll get back at all this. There's hope.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And we will share the recordings in the group. So hopefully anyone who couldn't make it will be able to see it later. So thank you all so
All
much.
righty. Meet
Bye.
out and Anita.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks everybody for joining us.
Y'all have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.